Hey guys, here today to talk about Satyajit Ray, a very unique, one of a kind Indian director who made all kinds of wonderful films of great humanism, just very fleshed out, in depth character studies, often involving artistic types. Artistic types who are pretentious and misunderstood. I think that is, one of the greatest humanistic filmmakers of all time. So to start with his greatest films I've seen of his, you know, Heather Panchali. Oh man, that's a beautiful film. It has a very unique knack of applying realism. I think from start to finish, I'm just constantly amazed by how grounded the storytelling is. Like the world building is just so beautiful that it feels ethereal, but it's very grounded and down to earth in its storytelling. So it's just really organic and just pure the entire way through. Um, like I said, this film just breathes up a world of entirely of its own. Like I've truly never seen anything like it. The characters range from just being very heartfelt and eccentric, just all kinds of interesting from start to finish. Like there's just it never gets old. There's even a lot of good humor behind it, just to kind of keep it all even more complete. And you just really believe in the struggles that the characters go through. It feels very real. And I think that that's what Ray is such a good director at doing. Like I think with his humanism, it's very one of a kind because there's just like a mythology to the most down to earth situations. Like it feels a little more mythical than something like a Yasujito Ozu film would be. I think that Ray's films are just a little bit more of a, like a you feel like you're living in a fable. Like it reminds me a little bit of like a very very grounded fairy tales type of storytelling, very mystical, very interesting. Oh, and Ravi Shankar did the soundtrack, so that makes things all even more fascinating. So this is like back in 1955, and from there, this is the first of a loose trilogy. I really really love this film. And then he made the second one in 1956, Aparajito. So this is the kind of the second one where the kid is now a teenager, and there's just so many amazing qualities about this film the entire way through. Like, I mean, just thinking about this film, I think this would probably grow me even more upon a rewatch because this one really hit in a very unique way. All this the entire trilogy has hit me in such a strong way. It's one of the best trilogies I've ever seen. Like, it's kind of up there with the Before trilogy. Like when I see this again, it'll probably be very similarly ranked. There's just something very naturalistic about this film. It's very special. Like all the frames are just very tight, and the plot is just always engaging the entire way through. Like, editing's just great. It's smooth, and it's just coming of age storytelling at its purest and finest. Like outside of a Richard Linklater film, it's really a beautiful one. And then 1958, he made this is my favorite one he did. It's called The Music Room, which so he made this kind of right in between the second and third entry of that Apu trilogy. So this is just one of the most beautiful, fascinating films I've ever seen. Period. I've only seen it one time, and I'm often fascinated by mythology and music, and I think this one just really hones in on a lot of the pure essence of that. Like kind of like getting to the fine line of just when there's mythology and when there's just like too much. Like when you're on the end of a musician, just like I guess like too much of an excess within music passion. This is just very unique in the way it explores it. There's like this, and it's a love letter to music. Ultimately, there's just a dance sequence that goes on at like literally about 20 minutes long, and it's just one of the greatest things I've ever seen in my life. Literally, like it's just a really bold statement of just love for music and celebration of expression, creative freedom. And I'm gonna have to watch this one again because this one just was really really special. I just really felt like it expressed pure passion and love for just life and whatnot. It's really a beautiful one of a kind movie. I've never seen anything quite like it before. Then in 1959, he made The World of Apu. And this is just the perfect conclusion. This whole trilogy is just so perfect. This is the best moment of the trilogy, in my opinion. And this is a really personal story because I think now Apu, like we've kind of seen him build into this beautiful man, but there's a lot of like almost over the top aimlessness to his life in a lot of ways. Like he has the right aspiration, the direction gets very astray as he's kind of writing this novel, and it gets very complicated. Because he's like, like you can tell he's like built up a lot of thoughts, very misunderstood, very heartfelt. So he's got a lot of built up thoughts to make him, a misunderstood, pretentious artist. Like it's kind of like he finds his greatest moments, not in the big ones, but the small ones. I think that's how a lot of artists function. It's the little moments you're really seeking, not the grand big ones necessarily. You kind of want to get past those to get to the intimacy of the small moments. And then like a lot of this is kind of exploring how maybe a lot of too much of that for an artist can just eventually lead to delusional thoughts and just kind of being misguided in a lot of ways. It can lead to just others misunderstanding you more, and that'll just kind of corrupt your potential. Honestly, like I think it's important to feel understood and met fully in where your greatest potential lies in order to fully thrive as a creative type, or just whatever it is you're doing. Really, like And I think it also is kind of communicating that, whenever you're a creative type, sometimes it's easy to get too far into your source of fulfillment that you find in your creativity. So you don't really seek fulfillment outside of the one thing you feel great about. So this film is trying to kind of communicate you need to get outside of your own box, even, like no matter how profound you think you are, moments you have to get out of that, be down to earth, and just like, yeah, be a little more grounded in reality than that. There's some more life outside of instinctual passions. You got to kind of embrace it all, I think, is to really have a fulfillment. Because honestly, I find that doing that, because I come back to my passions eventually, and it just kicks in stronger than ever. So, but yeah, and I think that this is just one of the most gorgeously made movies ever. Like, the ending is perfect. Everything about this film is very perfect, I would say. It's absolutely phenomenal. In 1960, he made The Big City, not one of my personal favorites all time of his, but it's still a great film. I think that I like the just diversity of themes that are at play with this film, and it has a very effortlessly pacing and flow behind it all. The acting is great. The characters are just full of life and energy, and you feel all their emotions. Like, the acting is just great because it communicates a lot of loudness within silence. I love it when films do that so smoothly. And I think that the older I get, the more I'll appreciate this film. But right now, I mean, I didn't connect with every single frame of it, but I really love the overall impact that it left on me. It really was a beautiful film. In 1964, he made Charulata. Now, again, this is an amazing one. This is pretty special, memorable. I think I just like how straightforward it is in its storytelling. It's probably one of his most grounded films he ever made. Like, the imagery is just not that flashy, but it's still very striking in its own way. Like, it makes it, uniquely him. Like, it feels like a home. I think that's the feeling his films kind of ultimately leave on the audience. It's like you're living in a home entirely of its own creation. And yeah, this is a film that left a really memorable mark. Ray is a director that does that. Like, he just has a personal touch to him that, yeah, it feels like, he's just saying a lot about everything you need to know about, like, family, raising children, being a kid, being an adult, being a parent, just being, a loner, a strange artist, like, there's just so many complications that come behind a lot of those that can easily go unspoken. And these films are out to meet a lot of those. So yeah, he's a beautiful director. I highly recommend checking these films out. I need to see a few more of his big hits, but those are his biggest ones, I would say, generally. I've seen all, but yeah, he's an amazing director. Perfect.